The door explodes. Rain hammered Chicago streets into rivers of neon and shadow as Dominic Castellano sat surrounded by the 5 men who ruled the underworld with him. Bella Sara's private dining room glowed with amber light, crystal glasses catching reflections of power and violence. At 42, Dominic had survived by being smarter, faster, more ruthless than everyone else. His tailored gray suit spoke of wealth, but the tattoos on his knuckles told the real story, each one a name, a debt paid in blood. The devil of the North Side, they called him, and he'd earned it 100 times over. Quick pause. Comment where you're watching from, and if you're enjoying this story, please like and subscribe. I've got a lot more coming. Then the door exploded open. Not pushed. Exploded. A little girl burst through, moving so fast she was almost a blur. 6 years old, maybe less, in a pink dress torn and soaked with rain and something darker. Blood. Not hers, Dominic realized with a cold assessment. Someone else's blood splattered across her collar, her trembling hands, her small arms. Her eyes swept the room, wide, terrified, haunted, and locked onto Dominic with laser focus. Then she ran straight to him, barefoot steps slapping marble, leaving wet prints. His security moved to intercept, but Dominic held up one hand. Something in those eyes held him frozen. Something that felt like a punch to the chest, like memory. She grabbed his arm with both tiny hands, her grip surprisingly strong. "Please help me," she whispered, voice cracking, dissolving into sobs. She buried her face against him, whole body shaking. Dominic sat perfectly still, aware of every eye watching, aware this child had just walked into the most dangerous room in Chicago like it was a sanctuary. Then another figure appeared in the doorway. Marcus Webb stood there, expensive suit drenched, face twisted with rage and panic. "That's my daughter," Marcus snarled. "She ran away during a family emergency. I need to take her home. Now." The child's grip tightened to the point of pain. A whimper escaped her throat. She was more afraid of Marcus than she'd been of bursting into a room full of armed criminals. Isabella's ghost. Dominic looked at the blood on the child's dress, saw the bruises forming on her wrists in the exact shape of adult fingers, and something shifted inside him. 20 years ago, his sister Isabella looked just like this. 15 years old, terrified, running from men who saw her as merchandise. He'd been in prison when it happened, unable to protect her. By the time he got out, Isabella was gone, vanished into the trafficking network that moved through the city like a plague. He'd never found her. Never stopped looking. Never forgiven himself. He saw Isabella in this child's eyes. The room held its breath. Politics dictated he should hand the child over. Marcus Webb's organization was powerful, well-connected. Starting a conflict would be stupid, dangerous, potentially catastrophic. Dominic Castellano had built his empire on cold calculation and ruthless pragmatism. He'd never let emotion dictate his decisions. He'd buried his heart alongside his sister 20 years ago. Until now. He stood slowly, lifting the child into his arms. She wrapped herself around him immediately, arms around his neck, face pressed against his shoulder, still trembling. "She says you're not her father," Dominic said quietly, his voice carrying absolute authority. "So either you're lying or she's confused. Either way, she's not going with you tonight." The words hit like a grenade. Vincent Rossi made a choking sound. Marcus's face went purple with rage. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with?" he snarled. "The Webb family will what?" Dominic's voice dropped to lethal whisper. "Start a war over one little girl? That seems excessive. Unless she's worth more to you than a daughter should be." The implication hung in the air. Marcus's expression shifted from rage to something colder, more calculated. "You're making a mistake, Castellano. A big one." "I've made plenty," Dominic replied, arms tightening protectively around the trembling child. "This isn't one of them. Marco, show Mr. Webb out." As Marcus disappeared into the rain, Dominic looked down at the little girl. "What's your name?" She lifted her head slightly, tear-stained face looking up with fear and hope. "Lily," she whispered. "Lily Chen." The truth revealed Dominic had Lily taken to a secure apartment, assigning his most trusted men to protect her. But she refused to speak to anyone except him. Traumatized, terrified, the only person she felt safe with was the most dangerous man in Chicago. When he visited, she told him fragments. Her mother Elena was hurt, so much blood. Marcus said he was taking her somewhere safe, but she knew he was lying, so she ran. Dominic saw the bruises on her wrists shaped like adult fingers and knew this went far beyond custody disputes. Using his connections, he located Elena Chen in a hospital under a false name, barely conscious, recovering from massive injuries consistent with brutal assault. When Elena woke and saw Dominic, recognizing him from news as a notorious crime boss, she panicked. But when he told her Lily was safe, that he was protecting her, Elena broke down in relief and terror. She revealed the truth. 3 weeks ago she'd witnessed Marcus Webb murder Jonathan Hayward, a wealthy businessman threatening to expose a trafficking network. Marcus and his men caught her, beat her nearly to death, and took Lily to ensure Elena's silence. But Lily escaped. Now both were targets. Elena begged Dominic to protect Lily and let her go. "I don't matter," she said. "Just keep her safe." Dominic looked at this broken woman willing to sacrifice herself for her daughter and made a decision. "I'll protect you both." As he dug into Marcus Webb's organization, he discovered connections to a name he thought was buried 20 years ago. Viktor Koslov, the man who ran the trafficking ring that took Isabella. Koslov supposedly died in prison 15 years ago, but Dominic found evidence suggesting he faked his death and continued operating through proxies like Marcus. This wasn't just about protecting Lily anymore. It was about finally getting justice for Isabella. That night, alone in his office, Dominic stared at a faded photograph of his sister at 15, bright, full of life, looking up to her older brother like he was a hero. He'd failed her. But he wouldn't fail Lily. Unexpected family. Dominic moved Elena and Lily to one of his most secure safe houses. Elena was still recovering but slowly regaining strength. Lily began to open up, showing glimpses of the bright, brave child beneath the trauma. Dominic found himself drawn into their world in unexpected ways. He read Lily bedtime stories poorly because he'd never done it before. She taught him to braid her hair, which he was terrible at. Elena watched these interactions with growing wonder. The notorious Dominic Castellano, gentle with a 6-year-old, patient with her endless questions, protective in a way that had nothing to do with obligation and everything to do with genuine care. One night Lily had a nightmare. She woke up screaming and Dominic was first to her room. He held her while she cried and she whispered, "I wish you were my dad instead of him." Something broke in Dominic's chest. He looked at Elena standing in the doorway, saw tears in her eyes, and realized he'd fallen in love with this makeshift family without knowing it happened. Meanwhile, Marcus Webb escalated. He launched coordinated attacks on Dominic's businesses, bribed or threatened Dominic's allies, and put $1 million bounty on information leading to Lily's location. The pressure was immense. Some of Dominic's own men questioned whether one child was worth this trouble. Vincent Rossi confronted him directly, "You're going to get us all killed over a girl who isn't even yours." Dominic's response was ice cold and absolute. "Then leave. But know that if you do, you're not just walking away from me. You're walking away from everything we're supposed to stand for. We're not heroes, but we're not animals either. That child ran to me for help, and I'm not going to be another person who fails her." Most stayed. Those who left, Dominic noted carefully. He'd deal with them later. He didn't just defend. He attacked, systematically dismantling Marcus's operations, freeing several other children held by the trafficking network. Each rescue strengthened his resolve. Betrayal. One of Dominic's trusted lieutenants, Carlo, was revealed to be on Marcus's payroll. He provided the safe house location to Marcus's men. The betrayal was discovered just in time. but it forced Dominic to move Elena and Lily to a new location. During the chaotic transfer, Marcus's men launched an ambush. A vicious firefight erupted on Chicago streets. Dominic's men held the line, but barely. In the aftermath, Dominic confronted Carlo. The man was defiant. "You've gone soft, Castellano? All this for a woman and a kid? You've forgotten who you are." Dominic's response was quiet and terrifying. "No. I've remembered." He dealt with Carlo according to underworld law. But the betrayal shook him. How many others had Marcus bought? How long before someone succeeded in finding Lily? Dominic decided to end this on his terms. He set a trap, using himself as bait, leaking a false location where he'd supposedly be vulnerable. Marcus took the bait and launched his biggest assault yet. Over 50 armed men, corrupt police officers, even some of Dominic's former allies who'd turned against him. The battle was brutal. Dominic's safe house became a war zone. But Dominic had prepared. He'd turned the location into a kill box, his most loyal men positioned for exactly this scenario. What Marcus intended as overwhelming assault became a massacre of his own forces. In the chaos, Dominic confronted Marcus directly in a savage, personal fight. Marcus taunted him. "You think you're a hero? You're just like me. Just like Kozlov. A monster." Dominic, bloodied and battered, looked him in the eye. "The difference is I chose to be better. You never tried." He didn't kill Marcus. Instead, he beat him until he talked, extracting every name, every location, every dirty secret of the trafficking network. Then he had Marcus arrested by the one FBI agent he trusted, presenting him as a gift wrapped in evidence. The network crumbled. Dozens of arrests were made. Over 40 children were rescued. New beginnings in the weeks following Marcus's arrest, the trafficking network crumbled. The FBI agent leaked enough information to the press that the whole rotten system was exposed. Dominic's role was carefully omitted from official reports, but within the underworld, everyone knew what he did. Some saw him as weak. Others saw him as something more dangerous, a man with principles. His reputation changed. Criminals who preyed on children started avoiding Chicago entirely, knowing Dominic Castellano had made it his personal mission to hunt them. He hadn't become a good man, but he'd become something better than what he was. Elena and Lily were given new identities and a clean start. Dominic set them up with a house in a safe neighborhood, legitimate income, everything they needed to build a real life. Elena tried to thank him, but words felt inadequate. Instead, she kissed him, gentle, grateful, full of possibility. "You gave us our lives back," she said. "What can we possibly give you?" Dominic looked at Lily, who was drawing at the kitchen table, humming to herself, finally looking like a normal 6-year-old instead of a trauma survivor. "You already have," he said quietly. 6 months later, Dominic still ran his empire, still operated in shadows, still had blood on his hands. But he was different now. He visited Elena and Lily every week, bringing gifts, sharing meals, being present in their lives in a way that felt both strange and natural. Lily called him Uncle Dom, and told everyone at school about her uncle, who's super strong and protects people. Her teachers assumed he was military or law enforcement. No one suspected the truth. Elena and Dominic's relationship deepened slowly, carefully. She knew what he was, had no illusions about the life he led. But she also saw what he was becoming. Someone who used his power to protect instead of just destroy. They didn't rush into anything. Both had too many scars. But there was promise there, the possibility of something real. Redemption. One evening, Dominic took Lily to a park. She ran ahead to the swings and he stood watching, a smile on his face that would shock anyone from his organization. His phone buzzed. "Marco, his head of security. Boss, we got a tip. Another trafficking cell operating on the south side. Looks like they've got at least 6 kids." Dominic watched Lily laugh as she swung higher. 20 years ago he couldn't save Isabella. But he saved Lily. And now he could save others. "Round up the team," he said. "We move tonight." He hung up and walked to the swing set. Lily jumped off mid-swing and ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. "Did you see how high I went?" "I did," Dominic said, ruffling her hair. "You were flying." She looked up at him with complete trust, complete love, and asked, "Will you push me higher?" Dominic Castellano, the devil of the North Side, the man who'd killed more people than he could count, the monster who controlled Chicago's underworld with an iron fist, said the truest thing he'd said in 20 years, always. He pushed her swing, listened to her laughter, and knew that redemption doesn't erase the past. It doesn't make you a good man. But it gives you purpose. It gives you a reason to be better than what your life has made you. Isabella was still gone. That wound would never fully heal. But in saving Lily, in protecting Elena, in dedicating his power to hunting the monsters who prey on children, Dominic had found something he thought was impossible. Peace. Not absolution. Not forgiveness. But peace. And for a man who'd lived in hell for 20 years, that was enough. That was everything. He had become the protector he wished he'd been for Isabella. The guardian this broken family needed. The man who chose, every single day, to be better than his past. Lily's laughter echoed across the park as the sun set over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Dominic smiled. For the first time in 20 years, he smiled and meant it. A new mission. The raid that night went exactly as planned. Dominic and his team moved through the South Side warehouse like ghosts, silent and deadly. They found 6 children locked in cages, ranging from 4 to 12 years old. The traffickers never saw them coming. Within 20 minutes, the children were free, the criminals were unconscious and zip-tied for police, and Dominic was making an anonymous call to that same FBI agent. This was his life now. By day he was Uncle Dom, reading bedtime stories, helping with homework, teaching Lily to ride a bike. By night, he was still the devil of the North Side, but now his targets were specific. Those who hurt children, who trafficked innocents, who profited from suffering. His organization had shifted focus. They still ran their operations, still controlled territory, still commanded respect and fear. But Dominic had drawn a line. No drugs near schools. No protection for anyone involved in trafficking. No tolerance for those who preyed on the vulnerable. Some of his rivals mocked him for it, calling him soft. But those rivals tended to disappear when children went missing in their territories. Dominic made sure of it. Elena watched this transformation with a mixture of concern and admiration. She knew he was still a criminal, still dangerous, still operating outside the law. But she also saw the man beneath. The one who woke up from nightmares about Isabella, who checked on Lily 3 times every night, who was building something better from the ruins of who he used to be. One night, as they sat on her porch watching Lily chase fireflies in the yard, Elena took his hand. "You know what you've become?" she asked softly. Dominic tensed, expecting judgment, expecting her to finally acknowledge the monster she'd let into her life. But Elena smiled. "You've become the father she needed. The protector we both needed. The man She paused and Dominic's heart stopped. "The man I love," she finished. In the yard, Lily caught a firefly and squealed with delight. Dominic squeezed Elena's hand, unable to speak past the emotion clogging his throat. He'd spent 20 years believing he was beyond redemption. These two had proven him wrong. Forever family. A year had passed since that rainy night when a terrified little girl ran into Dominic Castellano's life and changed everything. Lily was 7 now, thriving in school, making friends, sleeping through the night without nightmares. Elena had opened a small art gallery, something she'd always dreamed of but never thought possible. And Dominic was planning something he never thought he'd do. He stood in his office, looking at the small velvet box in his tattooed hands. A diamond ring. Simple, elegant, perfect for Elena. Marco walked in and stopped dead, staring at the box. "Boss, is that?" "Yes," Dominic said. "You got something to say about it?" Marco grinned. The first genuine smile Dominic had seen from his head of security in years. About damn time. She's good for you, boss. They both are. That evening, Dominic took Elena and Lily to the same restaurant where it all began, Bella Sera. But this time they sat in the main dining room, not the private back room where deals were made and blood was spilled. This time they were just a family having dinner. Lily chatted excitedly about her school play. Elena laughed at Dominic's terrible jokes. It felt normal. It felt right. It felt like the life Isabella would have wanted for him. After dessert, Dominic got down on one knee beside the table. The restaurant went quiet. Lily's eyes went wide. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. Elena chin. Dominic said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. A year ago, your daughter ran into my life and reminded me I still had a soul. You showed me that even monsters can choose to be better. You gave me a reason to wake up every morning and try to be the man you both deserve. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down Elena's face as she nodded. Yes. Yes, of course yes. Lily launched herself at Dominic, hugging him tight. Does this mean you're going to be my real dad? Dominic pulled both of them close, this makeshift family that had saved him from himself. I already am, kid. I already am. The restaurant erupted in applause. Outside, rain began to fall again, washing Chicago streets clean. But inside Bella Sera, in the same place where a terrified child had once burst through the door covered in blood and changed everything, a family was born. Not through blood but through choice. Through protection and love and the daily decision to be better than the past. Dominic Castellano, the devil of the North Side, had finally found his redemption. And it tasted like happiness.
Like and subscribe if you enjoy watching this story. See you on the next one.